Hello everybody, my name is Stratnos and welcome to This Week in Mythic Plus. This week's affixes are Fortified, Bursting, Storming, and of course, Shrouded. Not a bad week for keys. They've done some nerfs to several of the dungeons. Actually, if you just watched my last week's video as well and haven't been following along too closely, since then there's been tremendous amounts of nerfs to lower in particular, although some of that was to the Opera encounter that was like last week for NA, so that one's going away. Yeah, they've removed the Dispel as well on lower from the last boss from Atuban, which for sometimes the last boss, sometimes is like second to last boss. But oops, dude, it's so confusing to get around this place. Upper servants' quarters. Yeah, okay, there we go. They removed the Dispel mechanic entirely from Atuban because I think it was a combination of being too nasty to see for pugs and also the fact that a weak aura just let you completely trivialize it if you were in a good group, that everybody had the weak aura. It would just detect who had it. So that was a good change. Dungeon is still tough though, so especially on Fortified Bursting, like a lot of mobs here. I don't think guests are going to trigger Bursting because they haven't been triggering the other on-death affixes, but the other mobs I think will, so you're going to get quite a few bursting stacks on some of the pulls in this dungeon. And yeah, just Fortified in general in here. I would say, get your stacks, pull slowly, pull safely, and you'll have a bunch of extra time. But if you start wiping a lot, start chain wiping, that's how you deplete the lower. So pull accordingly. Depot, storming, obviously really annoying in the train. If you're a tank, probably just try and soak that so the rest of your group can't or doesn't have to. But obviously if you're dying on the Fortified pulls, then everybody's just gonna have to dodge. Docks. Docks actually pretty nasty on Fortified. A couple of mobs that you're actually pretty scared of are Gromkar Foot Soldiers with their charging slash, puts a bleed on players. I think if you're worried about dying to this, I don't think they target players in melee if there's a legal range target. So if you're about to die, just get into melee with them and they'll charge somebody at ranged. If everybody does this, then they'll still target somebody in melee though. I think that's how that works. The Wranglers also very scary pulls. Even post-nerf, these things are going to put a nasty bleed on people, so stunning these things for a while can reduce their DPS on your party. Good thing to try and do. Streets and Gambit, we're pretty familiar with how these affixes play here. I still endorse just going left kind of every week now. I would go left, but especially on death affix weeks, I think going left is really nice. Either way, you get so many shrouded buffs by just grabbing these infiltrators, right? You get like 5 infiltrators in 3 pulls here, which is pretty sick. Get a lot of stats. Gambit, bursting, a little bit annoying in the Murloc area, but of the on-death affixes, it's much nicer than Sanguine and Bolstering are here, so that is good news at least. Junkyard, not too bad. Like Fortified is good here compared to Tyrannical, I would say, in my experience at least. And yeah, Bursting and Storming, not really pulling too tremendously much enemies at once in this dungeon. So, again, just get your bots. Slow and steady wins the race. Workshop also pretty good. So Workshop, since my last week video, right at the start of last week, they nerfed count in this dungeon. So if you're using my routes, you need to add this pull. And if you still want to do this skip, you could also just pull everything. Just hold the W key. You're skipping 3 somewhat annoying pulls. I think this is the best stuff to skip in the dungeon. I actually think this is better to skip than last pack of the dungeon. But it's still not necessarily a huge deal. It may not be worth for your group compared to just, fighting everything. You can also drop this waste processing unit and add this infiltrator if you'd like to this route. Which would be, I think, a good change if you can pull this infiltrator without it inting your whole group as they're doing the Alarma bot crossing, which is something I've learned is not always the case. So identify for yourself whether you're in one of those groups. We talked a little bit about lower at the start of this, and upper. So I don't know if Storming is going to spawn during the Medivh encounter. If it does, Flame Wraith is going to be pretty sus. Because I think if you just get hit by a Storming when you have a Flame Wraith, I'd have to imagine that just wipes the group. So I guess we'll see how that plays out, but be ready for that. Maybe if you are a tank, try and soak. If you're anybody without a Flame Wreath, try and soak the Stormings as they spawn, so that whoever's in the Flame Wreath does not get hit by them. ideally, I mean, I think what they should do is just have them not spawn during this fight, maybe entirely, or during Flame Wreath if they can code that. But yeah, we'll see how that actually functions here. It could be a big problem, so be ready for that. Anyways, that's a quick look at how the dungeons are looking this week. Should be a good week for Keystone. Should be a good time to get some IO score if you need that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.